Nancy and we just mentioned earlier that on this live that it's time for calls where people are going to say they need a queen,
Yeah.
or they think
The
they
new
need a
people
queen.
first. They'll be calling because their queen can't find her, and she's no, they can't find eggs, and they can't find her. Meanwhile, she's just sitting down low, cooling herself, having a margarita.
Hey, Roy. Yeah, I mean, I have not been able to graft for the last 2 weeks. The one Monday was rain all day and all night.
Hmm.
This past Monday, I was in the hayfield till I don't know 8:30 at night, and or at least, but we were finishing up by that time. But last night we didn't get done. I didn't walk into the house. I think well, I texted you last night. It was 9:30 or quarter 10 last night.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now we're all done. My son, he's getting ready to leave tomorrow morning, probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning for Georgia. I'm like, where are you going? Well, I'm going down to this road. I'm like, okay, here's Claxton, Georgia, where the bees are. And here's where you're going. I says, I know exactly how to get where you're going. So I told him how we've been going. Instead of going all the way down 95 to what's the historical town in Georgia off next to the ocean? Where
Uh,
all the old houses are and stuff.
oh, Williamsburg
No,
or
no, it's
um, Georgia. I don't know. Charles,
Charles, Savannah.
Charles, Savannah. Oh, Savannah. I was there many moons ago.
Well, anyway, Savannah. So what what it amounts to is we found he's going to Claxton and all that, or Glaxton. We found that when you take 95 and you go across Lake Marion, which is a lake that was made by the WPA or one of the back in the the days um, of the depression.
Mm-hmm.
You get off of the second exit and you get on 301 and just take 301 all the way down to where you cross over Interstate 16, which is it puts you like 30 or 40 miles west and takes you right into Claxton. And then he's going to a town off to the left about, it looks like to me, maybe 20 miles where the big, he's getting his wife bought a cow and a calf. She's going to go into, see, how do you pronounce this cow? It's a Japan.
What Wagyu?
Wagyu. That's it.
Wagyu.
She's getting into the Wagyu business.
So they're not real Wagyu. They're
I don't
American
know
Wagyu.
whatever.
Because you can't, Japan won't let it out, and he won't let the genetics out of the country. So it's
No.
you have I have a farm near me that is American Wagyu. That's the only reason I know about it, because my husband's like, wait a minute, it can't be Wagyu. And then apparently my husband knew about Wagyu cows in Japan, which is a wealth of information. But anyway, yeah, so they're Americanized Wagyu.
Hey, Clay.
So that's top dollar, man. That's a lot of that's good stuff there.
Yeah, there was an auction. They go on vacation. They'll go to Texas. Um, they went out to some ranch out there that they specialize in that, the semen and all that stuff. And they
Yep,
they
yep.
went there and they took them a tour of the ranch
Oh,
and
cool.
seeing all these here big show wagyus, bulls, and whatever, and you could buy stuff from there, but I don't think their pocketbook is quite that deep.
Well, we have one. We have a farm right up near me. Charlie does all that.
Uh, she's in,
Um. Mhm.
she's in. I don't know. She might know about all that kind of stuff. Hey, James.
Yeah. Sure, she Googled it. Hey, Clay. I see Clay came on through Charlie, I believe,
Yep.
and then Collector Rick went over to Tom's. I don't know how this works here. James Crunch. Hi, James. I thought I'd buzz by. Well, we're glad to have you. Hey, Clay. Yeah. So, Charlie, how do you guys share? How did you do that, Charlie? How did you share your?
Well, I
What
get
do you press?
when I come in your channel, there's a button up on the right hand corner. I want to share
Right
it
hand
out.
corner.
I click
Huh?
on that, then I put in the title, Nancy's Beekeeper, Nancy the Beekeeper, and then in the description I say live show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I'm running it on my audience.
Yeah, I can see up top on the StreamYard. I can see it up there. I appreciate it. Thanks. So we were talking about eggs, Charlie. What do you know about bees moving eggs? Who
Mm,
spoke on that? Who has a talk
The only
on
thing I know who made mention of that here just recently was go to Bees in the Weeds with what's his name? Kent Williams.
yeah.
He said I've seen it where there was no eggs there and then there was eggs there. So he said he made mention of it. It's not a common thing, I don't think.
I agree, Charlie. I don't think they do. I think they only do it when they have to do it.
I don't know.
Like swarm
So this is
cells or emergency cells or something.
A desperate hive. I don't think they're moving from hive to hive. I think they're moving from an area of the
yeah,
hive.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. Here's a question for you. Hold on, let's go back to James's question. Rain went through 20 degrees. Should I do a hive check after 6 days from last? One swarmed on day 9. Got it. So you asking if you should do a hive check 6 days from last? Well, it depends. What do you check in? What year beekeeper are you? What are you looking for? What are you hoping not to see? Or what's your
I think he's
inspection
checking a
for?
swarmed hive. Hive that swarmed not 9 days ago, maybe?
One swarmed on day 9 and got it. Okay, well, day 6, yeah. So they're gonna cap cells on day 8. So
Well, they swarm. They probably got cap cells already.
Yeah. If
Or
he's
most
trying
of them. There
to
might
find
be one or two not capped, but the majority of them are capped.
if they got cells in there, swarm cells, then check to see whether the lid is hanging down.
yeah,
Yeah.
And that way you know you have a virgin. And what I'm talking about a lid is if you look at the tip of the cell, it looks
There's a
like
lid.
a hatch on a submarine where it's round and it has one edge of it is a hinge and it'll be flopped down. And maybe sometimes those, I have those, and when I go to them easy peasy cages and they come out, the girls come out in the hive and they get fed. When I dump that cage out to get her out after I take the cell out, is that the first thing is the trash, which is the lid falls out in my hand, and then she usually will come out, walk out, a few seconds later,
Right.
and
So
yeah,
if I
then
was James, I would have went in that hive that day or the day after they swarmed just to either cut cells if I wanted to make splits or kill all the cells but one or two. Some people only leave one, I leave two. So they don't have cast swarms. And then wait 10 days and see if you got a minimum of 10 days and see if you got a queen. And if you don't have a queen, wait another 5 or 6 more days, then check again.
it depends on the weather. This year, I always tell people 2 weeks for getting a virgin queen mated. This year,
Yeah,
because of all this rain we've had in stretches of rain, 4 or 5 days of rain, bad weather, it's taken an extra week. I've had several
yeah.
people say, well,
yeah.
anyway, several people came back. Oh, no, they didn't mate. And I said, give them another week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One guy, I texted, I said,
Yeah.
"Hey, here's my first guy I sold my first queen to this year, Virgin Queen." I said, "How'd that queen work out for you?" Because he's in the club. And oh no, didn't work out. I get a text on Father's Day. I'm in the grocery store on Sunday morning, and Happy Father's Day. He says, "Well, I guess the bees are the boss." I think he said. So went in there. Here's 3 frames of brood laid up, or a couple frames of brood laid up. And then here's this here queen with a blue dot on her because I mark all my virgins. And so she got back.
Yeah.
It just took longer because we have had stretches of 3 and 4 days of rain. Or
Yeah.
just
I
Right.
tell my
or
people
just crappy weather. Now
to
it's
take
like
those days out of the equation, Charlie. Take those days out. Like if you have 3 days of rain and cold, take them out of the equation. Only count the 70 degrees and sunny, no wind, whatever, as your possible mating days. Like you said, you add a week. If we get a week of rain, then you got to count that into the equation.
and then what I've noticed through the years, like today and like yesterday, it's been hot and miserable. You can go out there at 12 o'clock. My bees are out in full sun. Are they flying? Minimal. They are in the house. Like, we are not going outside. We're going to stay here where it's air conditioned. And then you get them out there about 3, maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody's out of the house, flying all over the place, going crazy.
Yeah.
James, he's a 6-year BK.
Yeah, and check the swarm hive. Yeah, day 6. I mean, I check them on, close 6, 7, 8, depending on when you can get out there. Oh, hi DC. I see you snuck in there.
Yeah. Hey, DC.
What's that word? Cruddy?
Cruddy, cruddy weather
Ready
bees. Cruddy
weather
weather
bees.
bees make cruddy weather bees. Yeah, I don't know.
You want to get Caucasian bees. They're flying cruddy weather.
Mine fly at 42 degrees in the rain. My bees here for years now. I've been clocking them at 42. They'll fly cold and wet.
That's cruddy and cold.
Yeah, and I don't know what I have anymore. I couldn't tell you. Harleysville
Yeah,
mutt.
it's funny. In the early spring, they'll fly at 42 in light rain or cloudy. But in the summertime, if it's 55 degrees and cloudy, they won't fly.
I don't know. I mean, Caucasian, isn't that the one that does a lot of propolis?
Yeah.
I don't.
Mine are starting to
I don't
propolize up
mind. I
more.
don't mind propolis, but not that much. Not when it's gummy all the time.
Yeah. Mine are
Occasions.
propolizing up more now after 8 years than any other year. It seems like it just took them a while to get going on that. Hi Randy. He's collected some good luck with that. You put an anchor frame in there, a frame with eggs, larvae, and brood. Make sure they stick around. I always put an anchor frame in my my splits and obviously my splits, but in my swarms. Keep them anchored. I had one take off on me one time, and I don't know what that was about. They were just weird, but I put an anchor frame in, and they stick around for me.
Yeah,
I,
DC says that he likes that stuff because he uses it. I guess he's making tinctures and stuff.
I had to do that with my last swarm, Nancy. It was one of my own hives, hive number 2, I believe. And
Mm.
they wouldn't stay in my box. And then the next day, I went and put a frame of eggs in, and they're
Yep.
still there.
I just could never take swarms off my property. I can't do that. So I just learned that technique back a long time ago to put an anchor frame in there. And if you know where it came from, if the swarm is yours and you know which one it came out of, putting its own in there is the cat's meow. They'll
Yeah.
really, really take to that quick. she'll start laying. Because if it's swarmed with the queen. If those are her eggs in there, they really blow up.
Rodney's
The only way I could
still got to
the
do
only
it.
way I could tell, I think it's hive number two. It's not bearding anymore, and all my other hives are. that
Oh,
kind of tells me it had to be number two.
yeah. There's your clue.
Yeah, I haven't got in it yet though. I don't need any more hives. I'm up to 50 right now, Charlie.
Better you than me. I got 18 honey hives and 11 or 10 or 8 nukes. I got 18 or 26 total. I got about,
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I got about 10 mating boxes out there right now. I know some of them are already made it. I need to get in there, but it's just either the weather's great and I've been in the hayfield, and when the time to end the day comes, well, it's nighttime most of the time anyway. You're
Right.
done. You're done.
Good done.
And or the weather's against me. So
Right.
I got a couple of them that are mated, and I got some hives that I've got everything on my phone, and they'll have, when I put them in, and they got a blue dot, the 2025 girls and all that stuff. So I got a few of them. I got one girl. I marked her yellow because she's a 24. And I'm trying, the next big thing I really want to do is try to get in these hives and harvest honey. People have been around here. Having you done that? I'm like, no. I said, we've gotten so high humidity, that's going to translate into wet honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't have time right now. I mean, our hay crop, I'm helping my son on that, and we're a month behind. Everything's a month behind this year.
Yeah.
April was cold as ice. April, we didn't get the April rains to bring, what is it called? April rain and May showers and all that stuff, to make things grow. We always would have, here it is almost July. We're usually done by the middle of June at the most.
Oh. Well then, yeah, so let your honey go another month. If we're behind, like I usually pull July 4th. Like that's my big pull is July 4th. And
That's what
I know anything I pull is gonna be either the 10th or later. Like it's not gonna be the 4th. So what's Mark saying here? I got a question today and I don't know. Question is galvanized. Galvanized. Okay, for a honey capping.
A little
Galvanized.
rust over
I don't know.
time.
It'll rust for sure. I don't know whether I would.
Here, DC answered. Read that one. Honey slightly acidic. I think that's the answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer too.
Now, there was a Dinah that comes on my show. She got I don't know, it was something on Facebook, and it was like, well, you shouldn't use metal dippers or whatever
Well, I get
versus
that every market.
wooden dippers. And he says, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but your extractor is made out of stainless.
Yeah.
Your uncapping tank is made out of stainless. Your uncapping knife is usually made out of stainless.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, I usually get non-beekeepers that ask that, people that aren't beekeepers. They want to know if they can use. And I said, well, do you have a real silver spoon? Do you have real silver at home? And they're like, well, no. And then I'm like, yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah. That's usually probably something old someone found, galvanized. Wouldn't it already
Yeah.
be rusty?
I think the galvanized, if short term, you probably get away with it as long as it ain't rusty and stuff. But
Yeah.
galvanized gear in general is a thing of the past. I mean, our health departments have said, "Oh, stainless steel." Well, what does stainless steel mean? It means it doesn't rust,
Well,
but
it's not.
it does. It's just like people say, "Well, aluminum doesn't rust." I says, "No, but it oxidizes. It does
Yeah.
have like a white flaky powder stuff
Oh,
on powder stuff on it."
yeah.
Hey, Charlie, our extractors and honey caps are all made out of 304. It will rust over time.
I'm sure it will.
317, 317 will not rust.
Yeah,
304 will.
Mark, the old spinners were galvanized. Yeah, that's what we had. That was the best we had. Probably galvanized
Yeah.
wasn't invented at the time.
Oh, ugh, ugh, ugh.
Now there goes Darren knows more so.
Yeah. Hi, Darren.
Yeah.
Nice to
I
see ya.
wouldn't use it.
Yeah, good enough beekeepers. He said it's um there's different types of
Yeah.
stainless, and and Tom just stated that there's
There's
different grades. There's
304,
different grades of
317, and I
steel.
think 324, I want to say,
I don't
or
know.
322.
So is
One of those
so
two.
is so when we see a different price point on different equipment, you see people that you see the equipment coming out of China that's built here, but came from China. Then you see stuff that's actually from here. Is that the difference in stainless steel price
No.
points on
Depends on the
equipment
grade of
that we
that
see?
steel, I guess. Could be the grade. And it also, like, you look at a Man Lake extractor versus everybody else's extractor. Man Lake has got a thicker walled extractor. And
Yeah.
I look at that and say, okay, it's heavier, but is it necessary? I don't think so.
Right.
But now I
Right.
have a Man Lake uncapping tank, and I look at that and I compare my tank versus what's out on the market today. Let's say from the China or the Korea or the Italy. A lot of it comes from Italy and stuff like that. My extractor is from Italy because the Man Lake extractor, but they come from Italy. Anyway, what I was getting at is you have heavy duty stainless, water jacketed. Then you have a lot of these other outfits that, yeah, they're a heated tank, but they're a blanket, electric blanket around that tank that heats it up and keeps the honey warm. Hey, Eddie. And
Um,
I look at that and say, okay, what happens when the electric blanket burns up? You can't replace it. You can't fix it.
Hi,
On
Eddie.
mine, I have a hot water element, heating element, like your hot water tank in your basement. If you have one of those electric heater, I can take the water out, pull that out, get myself a new one, put a new one back in, put the water back in, which is I
Mhm.
buy the deep, what do you call it? Sterilized water or whatever they call that stuff. And that you use for
Oh, yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't have any impurities in it. Anyway,
Oh,
that's what
yeah. I just had it in the tip of my tongue, and then it's what's it called? What's the water? Distilled,
distilled water.
still.
distilled water.
And so I mean, I see the different. I see the value of buying Man Lake or Max Ant there, but in an extractor. It's
Yeah.
like it depends. I look at like, okay, let's look at the stand, like a license stand. It's got really heavy steel legs. That's a good thing. Mine are more pressed steel. Not as it's been working great for me, but I gotta watch it. It'll get a wobbling like all of them do. But I like the license frame that it has better. License has motor on the bottom with a belt. Mine's a direct drive on top. So you got those things. Now things with like Hilco, they finally, I said this years ago when I bought my extractor to my friend. I said, why can't they design an extractor where it's banked on the inside so all the honey rolls around from one side, and it's got a hollowed out area to go right out the spigot.
Okay.
Hilco came up with that. Took, why couldn't Max Ant come up with that idea? Why can't
Right.
the Americans used to have great ideas? I mean, what's wrong with our people?
They weren't talking to the beekeepers. They weren't talking to the people that use the product anymore. It took us out of the loop. I got mine from I got a Hilco last year, I think it was, 9 frame. And it does just fine. I mean, I used to go to another friend's extract, and that was a pain in the ass, but anyway, and she had all bolted to the floor and all kinds of stuff, and I thought, so I'm trying to figure out how to bolt mine to the floor, and I just started slow. I kind of, I fill it up, make sure everybody, it's kind of even, and then I just turn it on real slow, and just gradually as it spins out, and I just turn it up, turn it up, turn it up until that thing's flying, and it doesn't walk anywhere. I
I
mean,
got
I
mine
don't have a
bolted.
bulb.
Mine's bolted down.
I
Yeah,
just start slow. If you start slow, it's a 9 frame. It's not an 8. It's not 18 frame and all that crazy. But um, I don't know.
Hey,
I just
Jeremy.
started out slow and get it going, and then
well, like me,
hi Lynn,
I don't have a uncap. I have an uncapping tank, which is a
Granado.
five way.
Hello.
But I'll sit there and I'll do a Charlie way in my. Oh, that's a heavy one. Let's put that over here. And they got three spokes in there. I
Yeah.
start out putting all the heavy ones at the spokes, and then you'll have a real light one. I'll put that in between the middle of the spokes, and I keep balancing that, by feel, balancing that
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
by placing it. Okay, let's put this here, put this here. Let's keep expanding from the spokes out with the heavy ones, and it works pretty darn close. I've had
Yeah.
some of them where I could spin that thing up. I had it dead on, and I could spin that thing up 50 miles an hour, and it slinged everything out there. But
Yeah.
some people say, "Well, I spin for 10 minutes." I said, "Well, I don't know.
Spin
The
that
way
jack.
I look at it is, I got a little flashlight, a little LED light. It's got a clear top, and I stick that light on there like that. And if I see it's still spitting out, if it's when it's first on it, it's like a stream coming out of those cones, and then it
Yeah.
gets to spitting, and it gets down to the point where it's hardly spitting a drop out. That's when I quit. It might take me 15, 20 minutes to do a spin. People say that's a lot. I said, well,
I don't know I don't know what the time is. I just
I
watch
look
the
at it
honey
this way:
coming
when I
out.
get I load the extractor as I encap,
Yep.
and by that time I'm ready for a break, and let the
Yeah.
start out slow and let it get equalized as you're spinning,
Yep.
and then you keep tuning it up a little bit more and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Hi Philip. You
And
came
Lynn
on
wants to
too.
know what I do with my sticky frames. Well, I have, an empty box there, and I put all my sticky frames back into that. And I only pull enough supers that I can get done within 3 days. That way there's no wax moth or hive beetle issues to be able to, for them to, if it's sitting there for 3 or 4
Yeah.
days, like hot and humid like this right now, man, that's bad news. And all. So like last year, I think I did I did 3 loads into my house because I only have minimal space on the back porch.
I do the same thing, Charlie. And I
Clay
put my
does.
wet deeps. My wet deeps go back on the hive, and my wet mediums I just stack out in front of the hives 50, 30 yards away and have a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, Jeremy does. He just bolts it down and all that.
Yeah,
Mine's
if you
bolted
got a
down.
20 frame, yeah, 20
Mine's
frame
an
extractor, you
18.
got a different ball of wax there.
Yeah,
So
mine's an
Lynn,
18.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm
mine's an
just doing a
18, and
9.
I wait. But Jeremy there, well, heavy duty
So
sideline.
Lynn, you can do, it depends what you want to do. If you're going for a second flow, or you can put them right back on. If you know you're done, you can put those wets above the inner cover, or you can take them and set them way at the farthest end of away from your colonies as far as you can go, and let them clean it up. They'll take it right back to the hive and store it for winter.
That's what I do.
Right.
So it
I put 'em
depends.
outside the house, and the colonies are, I don't know,
Yeah,
300 feet over here, and they'll
yeah,
fly over and they'll clean out the house there. Clean these supers out within about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then
Million bees there.
I don't have a fall flow. Last year we had a fall flow. We had a flow, and Lynn talks about this back all the way through July almost, I think it was. And I
yeah.
even asked the inspector, where's this coming from? He said, we don't know. And I don't know whether we're going to have anything like that or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you depends where you're at with it. You can put them back on, and then you can let them clean up. And then what I do is I let them clean everything. I have a line of pine trees that's up by the house. My yard is, oh gosh, I don't even know, like 50 yards maybe down from, but it's a big difference. I don't let them clean it out right near the colonies, but I take everything out. I take my strainer out. I take my bags, my knife, anything. I put it underneath the trees and they clean everything up spotless. I take my extractor, I set it out, I turn it on its side so the spout is facing up. And they clean out my extractor. They clean everything. All I do is rinse it off with hose water and put it away at the end of the season. Then I don't use any sort of chemicals on it. I don't scrub wax. I don't have to do any of that. My bees do it all for me. And then I
Jeremy,
feel it's a little more organic cleaning. I don't clean, scrub. I used to I used to do extraction at another girl's, and oh, the scrubbing and the chemicals that she'd use on her equipment and all of it was terrible. I just couldn't stand it.
what kind
I
of
just
chemicals
thought,
you use?
why? Set it
What kind,
outside
like
the
a Dawn
door.
dishwashing liquid or something? Or what?
Hmm?
What you use? Dawn dishwashing liquid or?
Oh yeah, liquid, yeah, soaps and scrub brushes, and I mean, you could just set it right outside the door, and it would have been, go home, whatever, go away for a while, and come back, and it'd be good as new. You couldn't get it any cleaner than what the bees would do.
Jeremy there, he's got a bad problem. Yeah, he's
JW. Hey, JW.
he has 1,000 pounds.
JW, they followed me in. There's one old fella missing though.
He's the oldest of them all.
Oh, Granada. I don't know how to say that. Sorry, Granada.
It's Jeremy.
Granada,
His
honey.
name is Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Jeremy's his first name.
Jeremy's out there. He's out in Texas.
Oh, he's in his second flow. I gotcha.
Yeah, he's got a cotton flow.
So I had a
That was
question
one
for
thing I learned.
JW.
That he said that cotton, there's GMO cotton, like the new stuff, and the old time cotton. Well, the old time cotton is what makes the honey, and he's got some and that where this other stuff doesn't. And people talk about like soybeans around here. I said, ain't nothing. I said I've had 30 acres up on top of that hill there, 30 acres of soybeans. Not one of my bees went up and got any of that because it didn't. They don't want the plant to generate nectar. They want to put all that energy into that bean.
Right.
It is. So crazy stuff.
So JW had mentioned the other night talking something about groundhogs. He doesn't mind groundhogs. And we're the opposite up here. We don't want groundhogs because groundhogs deteriorate everything you got. Like they, take your bottoms out of your sheds and your outbuildings, and they just cause a ruckus. But we don't have any problems with raccoons.
Traps in.
Yeah. I thought that was different, funny for him being down there in I want to say St. Louis, but raccoons we don't have.
Yeah.
I don't know if we very rarely see raccoons here. If you do, it's the daytime, and I think that's not a good
Yeah.
idea. But
I got
Well, I don't have any
raccoons, I
groundhog.
got
I got one
skunks,
cat.
I got fox.
Yeah,
I don't have any groundhog, which is good.
yeah. I got traps for them. And the problem is I got cats around too. I got one cat, but he usually doesn't
I
go out.
catch some. Hey,
hey,
Matt.
Nat.
Hey, how's it
So
going?
tell us tell us what you're up to, Matt. What did you do tonight?
Oh, I just got back from the local library trying to wow some people from the community about bees and the
Oh,
importance of pollinators. So
I'll be back.
yeah,
yeah.
it was an experience. It was the second speaking engagement I've done so far this year, and the first one was for a set of preschoolers at summer camp, and that was I brought a virgin queen in a little queen cage, and they thought that was about the coolest thing in the world. So a little different
Yeah,
for a lot of a lot older folks than preschool age here tonight. So it was interesting, and I could talk about bees pretty much all day long. So
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I didn't really even go in with any kind of a plan. I just brought a nuke box with some drawn comb, a foundation, just 5 frames to kind of show them what would be going on a frame of bees, and just kind of a basic talk, I guess. But it was fun.
Yep.
right.
Do you have an
Bees
observation hive yet?
101.
I do. Yep. I have one at my house, but I don't have one that I can travel with yet.
Okay.
I
I
actually,
just have a single frame. I have the one with a single frame. I don't have. I borrowed one where it had the frame up top and the 4 frames below it. Oh, what a pain in
Mhm.
the ass! It's heavy. It's bulky, and
Yep.
you don't need. I
Yeah,
just know which colony. Like it's usually a 5 frame, something down there, and I just take that one frame out, put it in there, seal it up, come
Yep.
back, and they don't even have any queen cells or nothing started. It's I don't know, just been lucky, I
yeah,
guess. And that sells a lot of, when I sell honey and I take that. Now I take
Oh,
that
I
to
bet.
talks too. But
Conversation starter, I bet.
in
that
fact,
sells a
Nancy,
lot of honey.
I do the single frame, and then when I take that frame out of the hive, the other side that the queen's not on, I brush those bees off, just so there's not that many bees, so the kids can find the queen. There's
Oh,
not the bees aren't hiding the queen. I've had that happen.
yeah, once in a while, but they've run her back down again. I've
Mm-hmm.
had a
Yeah,
lot of luck with, at first when I bought that observation hive, it was expensive because I think they're handmade, but well, I don't know. And I was just like, and I didn't use it for like 2 years. I'm thinking I gotta sell that thing. It's collecting dust. Well, once I started using it, it paid itself off many times.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first time I ever saw a beekeeper in person was when I put on my suit. I had never seen one prior to that, so I know the majority of the public hasn't seen a beekeeper or his or her veil. So they were really interested. The first time I noticed that, we did a trunk or treat last year for Halloween, and the kids were just. I stood there with my bee suit on, and they just walked around the trunk, and they were just in awe. And it's funny because even the youngest of the kids who could barely speak or just speak just well enough, maybe 4 or so, they knew what I was,
Yeah,
even though they couldn't just
yeah,
say beekeeper or say, but they knew that they would say, "Look at me," and say "bee" or something like that, and
yep,
so that's cool, but that's just kind of putting it out there for people that just let them know that there's people as crazy as I am trying to. I don't even know what I'm trying to do with the bees. Just having fun is what I'm doing, I guess.
yeah,
But yeah, it's been a blast. Busy spring for sure. Now looking forward to all this heat. It's been mid 90s here. The last better part of a week, I want to say, maybe going on 2 weeks. Feels like, but heat indexes. I'm sure, Tom, you're similar. Heat index is pretty humid. You're up in about 100,
yeah.
105 heat index during the day. So,
Monday it was 101 degrees with 96% humidity.
oh yeah,
mm,
You just walked outside and you'd be then in the shade, no work, just sitting in a chair and you'd be sweating. It was that muggy.
I'm gonna mute my mic here
So
for a
Philip,
second.
JW runs the coon marking the same as the queens. Last year they were yellow, this year they're blue. So he runs his coon color the same. Got a
Right.
huge beech. Now, I got a question about bee trees. So, are bee trees always dead or always alive? They got to be dead, right? Bee trees
Yeah.
always got to be dead.
I think they
I've,
go in.
I've,
I think they go
I've
in
heard
cycles.
that they prefer live trees over dead trees.
Oh,
Okay.
there's something with the mycelium and the synergistic effect with rotten wood and the decaying wood of rotten trees that is a mutual benefit to the bees. There's scientific studies out there with that. I can't necessarily recall or recant exactly right there, but it did have to do with basically the on basically the mycelium, the almost the mold
Yeah.
breaking down on the inside of that tree cavity was actually a benefit to the bees somehow.
So it's
Well, they
dead
have a
tree.
hollow cavity. No, it's a live tree with a hollow cavity in it.
Hmm. And even a
Then it
even a
wouldn't be
live tree
live.
like that, it's getting rotten from the inside out is what's happening.
Right.
So it's a dead tree.
It's on its way to dying. Yeah,
It's on the way to one.
It's an old
Yeah.
tree.
it's a matter of time
Gotcha.
before a big enough storm blows the right direction and it's on the ground.
Yeah,
Because
because don't we
Yeah.
see we see a lot of trees that fall over and then they or they're getting cut down in the
Hmm.
process of being removed because they're dead or dying, and then that's when it's like, oh crap, there's bees in it.
Yep. Yep.
So I yeah, I wasn't sure they were dead or alive,
we
like
had, we,
in my head.
yeah, we had a tree that it looked,
Hi,
it was
Randy.
alive. It was alive, but it was like a hollow stovepipe where
Hmm.
Yeah.
the part of a tree, the outer part of the outer rim of the tree is what is alive and growing.
Yep.
The
All right.
center part of a tree is really kind of dead, you might say. It's more there for support. I mean, there's
Mhm.
moisture and stuff. I mean, it's like people say, why'd that board have a crack all the way down the middle? I said, it's a heart board.
Hmm.
And I says, it came out of the middle of the heart of the tree and it's really close to the big vein. It's like an arterial vein in a tree. And that's where all your water's going. And that crack follows that vein.
Yep.
And that's why it cracks. Like I had one here one time where
There he is. Now we got the right old guy. There is
You
the
let
right
that
old
old
guy.
guy in.
yeah,
I don't want to argue. I want to argue.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna
There
say
we go. Come
I'm gonna
on.
say one
Buckle up,
one's
baby.
one's not any more prevalent than the other, the dead over the live. I've seen several of both over the years, and if a live tree, there's a lot of live trees that's still alive. It's got hollows in them and they'll have bees in them.
I got one up there at my house right now
Yeah.
that I went up
I've
there
got 2 or
and
3 around my
branch
farm.
that
I can
big
show you.
blew out and it's hollow up
Yeah.
there. But it's one of them maples that are 3 forks, and
Yeah.
the rest of it's live. But I'm looking at it now. I'm like, okay, how rotten is that thing? Maybe we just need to cut it and get it away from the house.
I couldn't stand it. I wanted to argue with Matthew, and I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say, one's not prevalent over the other, dead or alive.
But I think if the bees are in a live tree and it dies, they won't leave. They'll stay in it till it falls over.
Yeah, you're right
If
there
it's
too.
too
Why would
rotten.
they leave? They're
Right.
comfy. Why would they leave?
Right.
Well, if nobody's gonna argue with me, I'm gonna go back off here.
I'm not arguing with you. I don't argue with anybody.
Hey, JW, I got a question for you now that you showed up.
If it's personal, I
Have you
don't
ever
answer
seen
personal questions now, Nancy.
bees move an egg?
Moving
Have you
egg.
ever suspected that they move eggs?
I'm thoroughly convinced that they can. in my
Tell us
mind.
about it.
Tell you
Tell
about
us
it.
about it.
Well, they get a hold of them with their mouth and move them. You know, I've seen them. Well, I don't know. Let me regress on that statement a little bit. More so, I'm going to say, you say egg, go. I'm going to say more so larva thing. I've seen them move larva, so in my opinion. And some of it's alive, not necessarily dead, that they're cleaning out, from a hygienic standpoint. I'm going to say yes, but do they do it very often? No. And I'm going to say it's a situation where the hive's in trouble. Where I've seen it, you usually end up losing that colony. Oh, okay. There, I
Okay.
got somebody to argue. Get him on there.
I've not seen them move eggs or larvae, but I've seen them abandon eggs. Like in a nuke where you put in a frame of brood and there's not enough nurse bees in there to give jelly to the eggs at the right time, and they'll just look like eggs that have been in there, and they just until they get removed, they just stay static. They don't ever develop. It seems like, but I haven't noticed them moving larvae or otherwise. I just wanted to argue with JW, really.
I'm
I'm
uh,
kidding. I'm just teasing.
I'm a little bit of both, Mark. My head's hollow, and I'm a little bit dead and a little bit stupid. So I'm gonna
You
claim
got bees
both.
in your bonnet? You got bees living in your hollow space?
Yeah, I think.
I think we all do. We're all a little bee crazy, I think.
Yeah. I know one thing, Matt. I need some queens. You need to get them out here.
Okay, well,
Oh.
you let me know how many you need. We'll get them taken care of.
Uh, I'll tell you what. I was in my what I call my production apiary yard this
Yep.
morning, and I should have took some videos of it. I AOV'd the whole yard, and there was, I think I seen, if I counted correctly, I seen 11 uh, uh, doggone senior moment.
Mites.
Dragonflies.
No, dragonflies. Yep, in my yard uh,
Wow.
Mm.
while I was at AOV and vaporizing.
That's not a good thing.
No, there's no way I can get no way under God's green earth can I get a virgin
Right.
queen back here right
Too
now.
late.
Now you gotta start trapping dragonflies.
Yeah, I'm
Nah,
gonna figure out how
they
first.
make
Paint them blue, JW. Paint them blue.
Yeah,
it's called a garden gun, a 22 shot shell. We'll take care of dragonflies.
yeah.
There you go.
It depends if you have enough
It
time.
doesn't
time to
dragonflies
vegetate.
usually around water.
Well, I've
They'll
got
be in
my two
hayfields too.
main yards, Charlie. I've got about a 3 acre pond in between the two.
All right, there
One
you
of
go.
my
Yeah.
pond comes within 20 yards of my main production apiary.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, they can go a far distance for water. Like I have a pond 2 properties over, but they're gonna travel. There's dragonflies. But once the dragonflies hit, like JW said, you might as well you're not gonna get mated queens. Not until whatever turns them off. Whatever to back and fall, you might have a little something, but then your drones are gone. But yeah, once the dragonflies come, you can kiss it goodbye.
The
well,
most
So what's Icy Mountains?
Yeah.
dragonflies, barn swallows, and purple martins are every place around me. So no way,
Mm.
Jose.
I got barn swallows. That's my
Yeah,
biggest.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Icy Mountain, the bees bearding are mostly the nurse bees. And if they're still flying in and out, the flow's still on.
Or
Or
they're
they're
Possibly.
just
getting
getting
water.
water.
They
Yeah,
might
they,
be
they
getting
they
water.
consume a lot of water this time of year, and even July and August they bring in a lot of water.
Yeah.
So
I always
they're
look at
coming back.
Yeah, Sandy. I don't know. I mean, around here, she's out in Western Maryland. I don't know whether or not there's any trees and stuff blooming out there or not. I wonder if there's some sourwood maybe out there or a linden tree, I think.
Linden trees are probably still blooming if there are any in the
She's
area.
out there. She's out there in the mountains.
Sourwood's blooming now.
So you
At
might
least
have, there are trees of blooming. All right, Sandy. Well, I would say it's either sourwood or linden trees in your area. And
Yeah.
I don't
she's
know
out
where
there
Sandy is. I've still got persimmon blooming around
She's out
me.
there in Garrett County, close to Morgantown, and all them hills out there,
Okay.
and all. She's
If
in
you got
the.
persimmon, they're still blooming.
She lives in the snow belt. When we go out there to Kentucky, you know, and we were coming back in, as soon as we get to where she lives, and of course, part of her area is that's right where the ski slopes are, and
No,
it's like
it's high.
this.
It's high up there.
We're right at the top of the mountain where all the snow comes, and finally, once you get to Frostburg in Maryland, then it all stops. And then by the time we got to Cumberland, they never seen anything. It was dry as a bone, you know. So you got sumac. I got
Yeah.
some sumac here that's blooming. I'm not sure whether they're getting anything out of it. That's why I'm not in a big hurry. It's too hot. It's
Yep.
miserable. You know.
Yeah.
No, if you smell, they're curing it. Doesn't mean the flow could be over if you're smelling it. Sometimes, like my some of my colonies are smelling real good, but they're curing the honey. The flow
Why,
isn't
Sandy?
indicative.
That's why Sandy calls herself Icy Mountain Honey, because it's icy mountain out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nancy, I think I answered my own question why they're not capping the honey. Humidity's been up in the 90s this whole week.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah.
The dew point's been up in the 70s.
Well, see, they're on that their government shutdown for safety.
Yeah, there's protocol.
The union shut them down. It's too hot.
Yeah.
And I know the drones, like the drones will help dehydrate too. So if you hear a lot of thumping, sometimes you hear it in your colonies, a thump 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 thump. That's the drones helping dehydrate.
Is that a propeller drone or is that a 2-propeller drone?
Yeah, that's the Huey drones.
Yeah.
They do sound like a bigger helicopter when they take off on a frame.
Yeah, you can hear the difference.
Deeper pitch.
Yep.
You can hear the difference. I had a picture up. I can put it up again. I had a picture up about just at 6 o'clock. I went down and took a couple pictures of my colonies, and this one had, I don't know, 90% drones in the front porch. 90% of them were drones.
Wow.
Let's see if I can find it again, real quick.
I view bearding, again, with my limited knowledge, that to me is just whether or not you're on a flow or not. I think it's just too many pigs under the blanket, so to speak. Just too much heat in the hive. They gotta evacuate due to fire code, let's call it, and let enough airflow circulate through that hive to keep it at the temperature that they need it. So, it's just a population call that day for the heat and humidity of, 1,000 bees out there, or there's 5,000 assigned to get out.
I like to see when my hives are bearding it and tell how big they are.
Yeah. So this is a bottom board I had made. This is there's 3/8 holes here, and they're coming in and out. This is a ramp. I know you can't really, but this is a 3-inch shim that I ended up drilling holes in. I put some hardware cloth underneath some wire. So it's a screen bottom, and then they're on double deep. So it kind of gives them that space underneath the column, underneath the frame, the box number 1, gives them that little bit of space. But I caught all these drones, probably 12 or 13 drones here, all coming back. Unlucky guys. But I thought that was odd that, it was on 6 o'clock. They were all coming home.
I'd call them lucky if they made it back. If it didn't make it back, it was unlucky.
Yep.
But I like that bottom board. I like those. I made them because I had such bad robbing. It was because I was a terrible beekeeper and I figured all that out. And I stopped using them, but now I want to go back to. I really like these because you don't need mouse guards or I just really like them.
Yeah, so for me and the way we're running our production colonies, at least, it's basically the exact opposite of our winter philosophy in a condensing hive. We're keeping our reducer in, for 4 inches by 3/8, so it does have somewhat of an inch reducer on there to keep from robbing, cutting that down. But we're cracking our lids about a 1/4 inch on top, and with screen bottoms fully open, so they're able to vent quite effectively up and up the front door and out. Versus in wintertime, it's
Mhm.
a total sealed deal with heavy insulation on top.
Yeah,
Right.
I run, like you say, about a 4-inch reducer on most of them, and screen bottom board. And on my lids on their inner cover, I put them little blocks that are, I think they're 3/8 of an inch tall. And I kind of measured it jacks that telly cover up in the front. I don't know, maybe an eighth of an inch, gives it
Yep.
just enough ventilation to chimney effect
Yep.
and all
Right.
that stuff. And I found if I didn't do that in past years, that it would get, you got sweat and moisture up there, and it would start molding on me.
Mm-hmm.
So, about like you say, in
I'll
the
put it.
wintertime, last year was my first time using insulation, and I got
Mm.
my insulation, put the stuff up on top, and of course I put my carpet around the ones that are exposed to the wind. Worked great, no moisture problems or anything.
Yep.
And
Right.
I closed up the screen board too with Coroplast.
Yep. Same
And then
here.
Mhm.
I after a while I get to the point where I made these little wedges, especially for when I'm blowing smoke in them with OAV.
Yeah.
And so to keep that, I try to keep that vapor in there, the cloud at least 95% of the time, where
Yep.
it's contained.
I do
And
this. I do the same thing. If it's leaking
insulation
like
across
that,
the front. I got an insulation strip that I made that you close the front up. And by the, like I say, with the wintertime when I'm doing it, I just leave the darn wedges in, and I just it's just the way I run them, and they seem to be just fine
hmm
and all that.
that's just part of being an intentional beekeeper, and not just treating the hive and letting half of the vapor escape out the front or the bottom, and then call it being treated. So that's how I would do the same thing. Shimming it to get it as tight as possible.
Yeah, Matt will tell you my hives never beard.
That is a great, for the sake of argument's sake. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been thinking about it, JW. I went home and I looked at some of my yard, and I don't have near the bearding per se. And then that next day I came home and it was in the mid 90s, and I had what's seemed like 10 or 15 pounds of bees out on the top, out the vented cover on top. So
Uh,
I think
JW's just saying he's got all mini hives then.
no, he had bearding from the landing board to the ground. I mean, literally, it looked like that hive was
Oh
alive
yeah.
of a black face or a brown face of some kind. So
I
I'm
went out
I'm
there yesterday.
convinced I'm convinced that screen bottom board being open for that air circulation in summer, especially honey production time, is key for us. I'm not, I know enough just to be dangerous. I'm just saying what's working for us, and that's having, and you can feel the wind. I mean, you can feel that heat where they're
Yeah.
flapping up on top. You can literally feel it
yeah.
exiting the hive. So
Oh yeah.
Hey Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Hey Lee.
There's Lee. Yeah, I
Hey
have some
Matt,
cell
I've been
bottoms.
in one of my hives that was bearding big time. You'd be surprised. There's still pretty many bees in the hive.
yeah, I think it's just enough for them to be as efficient as they possibly can.
Yeah.
That's how I view that.
I don't know, I went
Oh
by
I
yeah.
have.
there. We were pulling hay. I drove the fifth wheel trailer around to get a load of hay yesterday evening. I don't know, let's say 6, 7 o'clock, and I'd say 80, 90% of all my hives, they were a whole pile of bees out on the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you all this. Can you tell, I've got about 50-50 screened and solids. You know, just I kind of like to mess around and experiment around. Can you tell? Do you think you can tell a big difference? Do you fellas?
Yes. Yes,
I,
absolutely.
I think
When you go
so.
down through my yard, you can tell exactly which one's a solid bottom and which one's a screen. And I'm getting rid of all my solid bottoms because I just it may so my solid bottoms, they live outside far more than they live inside. And it's my microclimate. It's not that that's going to be different. That's going to be different. I have my mentor who's 20 minutes away. She went to all solid bottoms because her yard's different than my yard. But my yard, I started with solids. I went to screens, and I still kept a couple solids, and I'm getting rid of them. Actually, I drill a hole and I cut them out to make them into screens. But my screen bottom board colonies do much better than my solid bottoms. One year I lost, I don't lose very many, but one year every colony I lost was a solid bottom.
And
And
why do you think of that, Nancy?
I don't know. I don't know. It's my yard. They just don't do well. And I'm either going to sell them
Here,
or cut them and create. I really am trying to downsize, trying to get rid of. So I might just sell them. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But
I
the
know
solid
that
bottoms just do not work well in
no,
my yard.
so I was just the opposite, Nancy. My screen bottom hives didn't do well. I went all solid for
mm,
my
Yep. So
climate.
I know, I know. I mean, my mentor, she got rid of all her solids, went her screens, went all solids. So
Yeah,
I mean, you just got to learn what works, in different yards. There might be yards that, my Fort Washington colonies, they have all solid bottoms and they're doing just fine.
mhm.
yeah.
I don't know.
I think
I
everyone.
don't.
Well, I don't know. The only thing I can tell you is I got that cell builder out there, and I thought I had a ball of bees up underneath the bottom of it. And it's a screen bottom board 5 frame,
Mhm.
and I got into it over the weekend or whenever day. I don't remember what day it was, but anyway, I got out there to check and see, and it wasn't a ball of bees. It was drawing comb underneath there.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, or is it because I'm trying to find a queen and I didn't see any queen? And there was some brood there. What it was laying worker, I don't know. And
Yeah.
so the only thing I'm thinking of it is if I had a solid bottom or I put my chloroplast in there, it'll break that, the smell, I guess you would say, from the queens up inside.
Well, she
Well,
just
I'm going to
came
make
back.
a statement here, folks. As of this afternoon, I've got 47 beehives.
Better you than me.
And I'm about half and half screen and about half. I'm not going to say exact numbers, but about half screen bottom board and half solid. And I'm going to tell you just the way it is. None of mine, from a production standpoint, as of today, are suiting me for honey production. Not a one, either way. So I'm just telling it the way it is. But I'm not satisfied with my prospects for a good big honey crop.
Too much rain.
I assume, Charlie, that's part of it. I just don't. I'm not going to profess to have the answer. I'm just telling you the facts. And
Well, for me, it rained right. It rained. It always seems to rain, except for occasionally when it comes to locust bloom, and then right behind that's the poplar. And it rained pretty much while the poplar was all blooming and was pretty much done. Who's bearded
That's a
hot?
solid. That's a solid bottom in my yard. Look at that.
I've got some screen bottom, Nancy, that looks just about like that also. I'm sorry, but
So
I'm
in
not
this
trying to be
picture,
argumentative. I can't tell a big difference, honestly, in this really hot
yeah,
weather. But it's in the 90s here, and our heat indexes are in the hundreds, and I'm not saying, I hadn't even checked what the humidity is, but if you move, you sweat. That's all I can tell you.
yeah. So this here, I ended up putting on another medium. I this is my inner cover, and I popped the screen. I have a screen across the hole there, and I pulled that out because I couldn't disrupt. Here it is without that extra. I couldn't disrupt them to take that inner cover off to add the medium.
Yeah.
So what I did was I just took the screen out of the inner cover there to give them access, and I put frames in it, but then I added another medium. So these pictures are a day apart. I added another medium, and more of them came out and went up into there. But that's a solid.
I don't use inner covers
Crazy.
period, so I can't.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting away from them.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting away from them too, finally.
Yeah, you get a little more Charlie's favorite propolis in them, but without the inner covers, propolis going to cause you a little more of a
Yeah.
headache.
I use double bubble wrap. That's my new cover.
Well, that's me. That's what I use.
Yeah.
Um,
Where'd Matt go?
I'm thinking
Reflex.
I
about
probably
getting.
had
I'm
Matt.
thinking about it.
He gets mad at me, and he goes on. He goes.
Especially when I have my supers on. I don't need to, I can just pull up a couple inches, look down in there, see if it's got honey and not, and close it back up.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason that's holding me back is I have winter. My inner covers are called winter inner covers. They're about 2 inches, and they got a nice hold. So that holds my insulation. That holds a lot of stuff for me. I run rapid rounds. I love my rapid rounds. They're on probably nine. Maybe half the year, and the different covers, the different caps, all of that can stay inside the colony. So it's kind of like a storage area for me. And then my rapid rounds fit on that, and then my Hive Alive fondant fits on top, and I don't know. So that's kind of why I haven't gotten
Sounds
rid
like
of
to
my.
me, Nancy, you got a system there that kind of works for what you do. So
I know,
you just kind
and
of
I'd
keep.
love to get rid of the inner covers. I really would, but they hold my insulation all year round, and so
Yeah,
I
but I
that's
mean, it's
that's
not. It ain't like a normal insulate or inner cover. It's more of a. It's
yeah,
a
it's a
multi-purpose box, you might say.
so
Yeah.
Forest Hill, the Amish guy, a lot of people on this side of the country use them, and they sell it as a winter inner cover. And I started buying them, back my second year, I guess. I have some of the originals, but uh, so it's a storage area for me too.
Yeah. Well,
If it works, I wouldn't change it. That's all I can tell you. I
Yep,
haven't found
and it
anything
works.
that's guaranteed to work year after year, after year after
Yeah,
year. By the time I think I've got it figured out, the bee gods make a fool out
my
of me.
compound, honey compound.
hey, Jason.
Yeah, and I lost that colony, by the way, just to add. I lost that colony. That colony was so strong and doing so well, and I ended up losing that colony. And it's a solid. I took the solid off this just now, within the past 2 or 3 days. I took the solid off of that, and it's not going back on.
You know, sometimes you can go in a winter with actually too big of a hive and they just take up way too much resources.
Well, I mean, I've heard some, I'll say beginner beekeepers, oh, they got so many bees. You got so many bees. We got to put a third super on. And I'm like, no, you don't. To me, that's inexperience. It's just
Right.
they'll push them down. And then they also have that same idea of, oh, I got so many bees in a single deep, let's say, and I got to put another uh, box on for a brood chamber. And I'm like, I'm looking at, well, how many frames you bee? Well, I got about 6 frames of bees. I said, well, then you don't need no more box.
Nope.
They don't have the experience on.
Yeah.
They
Right.
think they got a lot of bees, but they ain't got a lot of bees.
Right.
And
They don't know what a beehive looks like yet.
yeah,
There he is. I
yeah.
was wondering where he went. Did I?
Sorry, no, it was my phone. My went to like an emergency
Oh,
shutdown. I had it on the charger. It was overheating somehow. So
oh, okay.
use my
Because I was
earbuds.
messing
So it's,
around, and I'm
I
thinking,
thought I made you
did I
mad.
snap that?
no. I gave you the Irish goodbye, JW. No.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So yeah,
I
my
tell you
phone.
what, folks, I just got
That
on here to
Sunday,
argue about, I just
Sunday
got on.
afternoon, I was my hive number 2. I think it was swarmed on me. A 9-10 frame swarm, a big swarm, and my phone, as I was using it, overheated, and my video disappeared. It like
Wow.
Oh,
it didn't record, but it was recording. But then it stopped recording and didn't save any of it.
Mm,
uh,
yeah.
Well, I
how
just
do we
come
get
on
our
to
buzz?
argue about dead trees versus live trees for feral colonies. So nobody will argue with me. So I'm gonna get off here and go back to bed.
All right.
I hope you're
All
feeling
right,
better.
JW. Well, thanks for coming on.
Well, y'all have a good evening.
Thanks for arguing with me.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one. See you, Charlie.
See you, buddy.
All right.
Yeah.
See y'all later. Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah,
That's
it's quarter after. I can't believe it's only 2.5 hours. Last week, I think I went, or
Last time
3 hours.
I
I
went
don't
like
think I
this a
got.
couple times. Nancy, we got 3 hours.
That was past Nancy's bedtime.
Oh yeah. Well, I prep. I prep for this.
Oh, so you went out and slept for a while.
Oh, I slept in this morning. I stayed in bed till eight
Oh,
8 o'clock, something like that. Instead of being in the bee yard at 7.
Mhm.
Well, in the when I start feeding there for a while, I get up at 6. I'm prepping my feed in the dark to get out there and get everybody fed before the yellow jackets wake up. But yeah, so that season's coming here, but
It's like
I
Yeah.
let them.
so far I haven't seen a single yellow jacket. And then all of a day, or all of a sudden one day, it's just like a light switch goes on. Then here they are. It's not
You
just
can hear them.
one here,
You
one
can.
there. Yeah,
I
it's
hear them.
all of a sudden they're just there. And in numbers,
Yep.
not but I guess their
I hear them
population
go
gets big
cruising
enough to where you
past.
start seeing them.
Don't mention that word, dirty word, yellow jacket.
Good
Yeah,
night, Lynn. I know the
I would
heat
weed
does
eat.
wear you out.
I grew up with horses, so behind the barn where we pitched the manure, I was in charge of weed eating that hill. And of course the horses coming up hungry to the barn would climb and leave a perfect little hoof cave, and the yellow jackets just love those.
Oh
So
yeah.
I learned what yellow jacket nests were pretty young. So that's
Mm.
and also what it's like to get stung. But they can keep stinging you. That's the difference there. They actually hurt worse to me than a bee sting.
Yeah. It's funny though that
Yeah.
when you're at the hive, you can just go over right with your finger and smash them. They
Hmm.
don't even know that you're there.
Well, so I this is when I do my little speech about yellow jackets. Yellow jackets are very telling of a colony. So I let my yellow jackets tell me the health of my colonies. They're going to tell you which one's weak, which one's sick, which one has
Yeah.
mite pressure. They're going to go after the colony that is not doing well. So I use yellow jackets as a tool to tell me who needs, you know, what they need. They go in, and they come right back out within a split second, you got a colony that's, you got good guard bees in there. You got yellow jackets go in and don't come back out. You got an issue, you got a problem.
Yeah,
I don't kill yellow jackets anymore. I used to. I don't kill them. I
that's a
just let. Go ahead, Matt.
oh sorry. That's the way hive beetles would be here, I guess, versus yellow jackets and seeing the health of a colony. They're almost always going to be around, but we just keep strong enough hives to be able to keep up with them and not,
Right.
them never blow up. So, but yeah, if a hive were to fall or falter or not come back clean right or something like that, they would kind of like crocodiles swimming around the moat of the castle. They're ready to snatch any given time. So,
You got that right. I don't bait. I used to bait and kill them. I used to do the soda cans, cut them and turn them upside down and put all your crap in there and your chicken wing and all that. And then I had that to deal with. And I'm like, ugh, like, wait a minute. So I need them as pollinators. They're pollinators, right? We need them just as much as we need
Cleanup
everybody
crew.
else. So just don't,
Yeah, they're
like I
they're
just,
cleanup crew. That's what they're for, there
yeah,
to clean up any leftover messes for winter time.
yeah. I don't kill them. I don't do all that anymore.
I don't put traps out, but if there's a yellow jacket nest in my yard, I'll take care of it so I don't get stung cutting the grass or
Oh yeah.
weeding the landscaping.
Oh
mhm.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not gonna leave. Like I haven't ever. Mine are in the woods and running along the creek there. They're all down in there, I'm sure. Some
I had
years
one
they're
of my
really bad, and other
last
years
year. I
not.
had one in my front landscaping. I didn't know I had until it got big. Like Matt said, light bulb went out, and all of a sudden they were flying back and forth.
Mhm.
And
Matt, can you show us
Yeah.
your yard?
My bee yard.
Yeah.
yeah,
Not it's not here at this house. It's our farm's about 10 miles away.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I wish I could. Yeah, I'd go there. It looks like the grass cutter got fired or whoever was cutting the grass. No, I'm kidding. But I planted wildflowers and I kind of let it go feral because that to me, I know that the bees surely don't care, and
Yeah.
I have sweet clover and Dutch clover and you name it, I've planted it. Well, earlier this year there's bee balm, and so it's just all kinds. I
Hmm.
just go and plant as many of the perennial
Yep.
flower seeds as I come across them. And I've noticed you don't see them that year, but the next year you'll start seeing flowers you've never seen before, and you see bees working it. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
we have 7 yards altogether. We're probably about 140 clean right hives right now to give an idea. Um,
Jeez.
we're really, man, I'm doing full-time carpentry. We're building decks in this heat, so um
Uh.
it's busy, and it's exactly what I've asked for, so I dove in pretty heavy, but I'm also willing to travel to learn. So I'm making some trips down to Mark Miller's, trying to soak up as much information from the greats, let's call them, and JW's. He's so humble, he'll act like he's not a wealth of knowledge, but you know that he is. And just things like that, just diving in head first and not being afraid to spend some time and actually get something out of this, too. So yeah, this year the bees are paying their way. And I think
Oh,
i'm
good.
on i'm on a track to draw about 1,600 frames this year as far as foundation. So to give you an idea, that's i'm uh I'm treating my boxes and getting them out in the yards about as fast as I can either assemble them or buy them, one of the two. So
Hmm.
I'll
funny,
stop.
Matt.
Yeah,
This is my best year of getting boxes and all my hives, getting my hives big, and then the
yep,
flow didn't happen.
yep, yep. That's the way it goes. Our flow didn't really start kicking on and really shift a gear until probably the middle of May. I mean, we didn't really get a huge spring or locust bloom here. Um,
No.
okay, I guess I would refer to it as. But again, this is my 2.5 year. Going. This is my third full year, I guess you'd call it. So first
Yeah.
year, I don't
Mhm.
even know if you. I don't even know if you counted. I had 2 hives and I made one walkaway split. But so
It's
We all
yeah,
start
2018.
somewhere.
This is by far my worst spring that I've ever seen with all the rain.
yeah.
It didn't stop raining until June. So my flow didn't start till June.
Yeah, that's about the same way it was here, but when this heat and some of that rain dissipated, they just shifted a gear, and um
Yeah.
it's there's several hives that I have, that are 6 deeps tall, and I'll have to probably I need to extract. That's my biggest problem. Um, I need to start extracting because I think I counted somewhere in the mid 60 deeps and similar on the mediums. I don't know what the weight is on that, but I know that much that amount of supers are full. So
Yeah. I'm hoping my boxes are full. I haven't checked.
the just
So,
riding that wave, I guess, for right now. So a lot of people are, haven't had the best honey production years. So um, just it's all about location. We're blessed with a lot of creek bottoms and river bottoms along the Mississippi, and that's pretty fertile ground.
Yeah.
If um, so we make a lot of honey on the hedgerows and kind of farmers being lazier, I guess you'd call them. So we're
hmm.
When your three months of spring break records and rainfall, it's just not a good thing.
yeah, yep, that's true.
Well, you say about that hedgerows, Matt,
Hmm.
is that now they don't call them hedgerows anymore. They're called pollinator wildlife,
Mm,
restoration.
Gotcha.
Refugees or
So
sanctuaries.
farmers 20 years ago took out all the hedgerows. Well, you don't have a place for pheasants,
Hmm.
rabbits, all your mammals,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you nothing for the bees because usually it's honeysuckle or that's when people come to. Oh, I want locusts for locust post. I said, locust trees were more or less a fence row tree. You
Hmm.
didn't have them in a grove of trees like a forest.
Yep.
They're more of an outlying tree. And I said that all the fence rows are cleaned up and gone.
Yep. That's
yeah,
And
they wanted that extra 3 feet of corn, extra 3 feet of soybean,
exactly
extra
right.
3 feet of
And
whatever.
now they, I guess it was Dr. Debbie Delaney said, this guy, I guess it was an ongoing experiment. And I'm going to say it was a grain crop. I don't know what it was, um, whether it was soybeans or what it was at this time. But where the person had hives over here, had a pollinator friendly area over on the edge of the field. Those, and of course, he's got a combine that tells him what his production rate is in that area. It went up because not so much the bees went to those, it was more of an overflowing from what they really wanted into the I'll say soybean field.
hmm
So it was proving that, and everybody said, "Oh, you got to put these here pollinator friendly strips in and whatever," And a friend of mine at McDonald's who's passed away now, he's a farmer or part time farmer. He said, "Yeah, we used to call them fence rows," and I'm like, "You know what? You're right. We
hmm
it was naturally the fence row was for all the animals and stuff that was in the field, and also the pollinators, and now they, like you say, Nancy, the big farmers, they want to farm right up to the blacktop,
Yep,
to get
yep.
every inch.
Because
And
they can. There's a legally a how we has residential, we have this say 10 feet off the property line. Like
yeah,
you have that farmers can
Eat.
run right to the line. And my guy, I live next to a farm here, and he ran to that line, and then every year he would run his tractor tire another 18 inches, another 18 inches, another 18 inches, where he ended up taking probably the depth of probably 20, 30 feet over the course of 30 years.
of where
And then
somebody else's property.
My property. So when we
Okay.
bought this property, it was 2 acres. They said it was 1.92. So I'm like, where's the 2 acres? I can't find 2 acres. So I Google mapped it and I couldn't find it. And I kept thinking, oh, it's over here. This other development overstepped the boundary. Well, I noticed I lived next to this guy farm next to my apartment I had for 7 years, and I watched him creeping over there. So then I thought, well, I'm going to watch this guy. Sure enough, one year he ran that 18 inches, and then, he takes everything down with that back tire. And the next year he comes along and he just runs his tire a little more. So I had the place surveyed. I spent the money and had the place surveyed and pushed him back to where he belonged.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that
we're gonna
But
put
I've seen
trees up.
that. I mean, we had where these highs are behind me, north up toward, not that way, I guess it is. We were over on out. We had, before my father passed away, before the other guy passed away, we had it surveyed, and we were over on him by about 2 feet, over the years. And we, there's no problem between us, but it was just, I think years
Yeah,
ago we plowed. I remember
yeah.
plowing the field one time. Well, the plow was plowing it out. Well, what the heck? It's, to them, it's, just yard, less grass
Oh,
to
this
mow.
wasn't 2 feet. This was going around trees and sheds a whole 30 feet. You
Okay. Yeah. Well,
know,
that's a little bit different story. I
mhm.
yeah,
mean, we
yeah,
kind of knew, we had a general idea where the lines were at. We were just a little
yeah.
bit variation there. And 19 took. Darren, that's wonderful. I said that, if I get
That's
20 out of the 30, shoot, yeah, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey,
wow.
Your first time or being new.
mm,
Yeah, now Darren, now something that I've noticed this year, and I learned a lot, and I'm still learning. I'm still grafting too. I just haven't done it in 2 weeks because of either rainy weather or because of work. Is that, like I said on my video, you can get, like, you got 19 out of 30, or there's a percentage of you're of non-acceptance. Then I had the cells. I put them in the incubator. Well, then I put them, because it was cold when I first started at nighttime. It was in the 40s a lot of times. So then I would put them back into the hive in those easy peasy cages. And one of them, I had 5 or 6 of them didn't hatch. They, and I opened them up and they weren't formed and all that kind of stuff. But I watched some of my videos. When I did that one video, I was picking up the cage and it caught on that test tube holder. We got bam, bam,
mhm.
Oh,
bam.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking really heavy or hard. I'm just I'm talking about just slightly smacking, the rest of them were getting a little bit of a smack, And I says, right there, you've got to be very conscious of, don't jostle them. I don't care what stage they're at, what the books say or the charts say. You be so, I mean, when I'm coming around there with my frame of cap queen cells, they're in my hand as a human springboard, where they're not getting jostled by the truck or anything like that.
I do the same thing. I know a bump's
Okay.
coming. I give it
And
a
then when
hand
I
and it's
take them
over.
off of that, and then one of the things I did was I was trying to take the bar out of the frame. Well, it was glued by the bees. I jostled them that way just a little bit. They're still fragile. So now I go in there, I got my cup or my cage. I take the cup off that thing and put it right into the cage. And then I got the tray that Easy Peasy has for those cages, and I put them in that. And then I take that tray after I fill them all up, put them in the incubator, set them down like they're eggs or whatever you want to call them, and very gentle. Put them down like that. When I get ready to take them back out there and put them in the hive to let them hatch in the hive. I put them in that banking frame that I bought from him. And same thing. I don't let them sit in the seat. I hold them frames, take them out there. I put it in the thing real super gentle like. And then this last batch was, I think it was a Saturday a week ago. Yes, it's been a week. They've been in there about a week now. They hatched out, and I think I was able to look at them late Saturday afternoon, and they all hatched. But I made sure every step of the way, Darren, you don't jostle those cells whatsoever. And
You
yeah,
gotta be really gentle with
when
them.
it comes to farming, sometimes the farming comes first this time of year. And then when it comes to sawmilling and stuff, I can kind of slip away from that occasionally. I will take off on certain times of the year, that I know that I've got to do it today. It's got to be done today or the weather is going to suck for the next week. And it's like, if I got caged, let's say I bought queens or something like that, they're going into that hive if I got them that evening, first thing in the morning, I'm taking off. They're going in the hive. I get real nervous with bees. Like I don't like bees laying on my kitchen table. And because they can die on you right quick. And there's no get your money back either.
I've been grafting for 5 years, and this spring was the first time I ever hit 100%. I was 22 for 22.
I did 100%. Well, I hadn't grafted for 3 years. So prior to that, I'll say 2019 is when I did it. When I went down to Knoxville, Kent Williams showed me how to graft. And I happened to have the cell builder naturally at the right amount of bees. And I think I hit 100% that one time. And but back to what Darren was talking about, you'll have a percent that didn't cap. You'll have a percent of cells that didn't emerge. And then you'll have a percent. I put them in candy cages. I keep them in my bank them out there, let the bees feed them. I've had some, and I've noticed this. If bees detect that queen, that virgin, that bee inferior, they'll starve that queen to death. And they'll feed the rest of them that they like. And you'll lose a percent there. Not much. And then you put them in a mating box to get mated. And then there's a percent of lossage there. So, it's a process, and everything.
And if you do it in the spring, your percentage is higher. You do it in the summer solstice, your percentage is lower.
Oh yeah. Yeah. From now, I might draft a few more. I mean, depends on how many people. I got one guy that I just found an email instead of them calling me. Got to find out whether they want. I got about 15, 16, 18 queen. I think it's about 18 of them out there right now. And it's like, okay, I skipped a couple weeks because of weather and job. And I'm not really worried about that. My big thing is I'm requeening everybody. I want everybody to be a 25 queen come here by July and that kind of stuff. So that's my goal for right now. And then after that, I mean, I'll say probably by the middle of July or so, I'm done for the queen room aspect of it here.
Yeah, I might graft one more time.
I mean, it depends on the drone population because I put drone frames and everything. So there's a good population of that.
If it's helpful for anybody else that's doing builders and grafting right now, I know this morning I found out I lost my last builder here that I built and a double 5-frame, two-story 5-frame. And just due to the heat, they hatched at least 2 days early on me, and I didn't have them in cages. So I don't know, I probably had at least a dozen virgins running around that hive.
I was texting Bill down in Virginia, and he said that he had 4 or 5 virgins hatch out a day or two sooner.
I know that I had them hatching Monday, and Saturday I went down there and they were out and already half of them chewed, so she had enough time to run around and chew out however many virgins.
Well, yeah, he didn't have anything caged, and he was lucky between him and I think it's JD. They found those virgins walking around in that cell builder. I was like surprised. I said, "You can't find that in my cell builder." I mean, I don't know. He just must have been lucky.
Yeah.
And Darren, if you're going to go out to Nobby this year, I would wait till Nobby and go to Easy Peasy to probably have that kind of stuff on sale, maybe, and all that. It might save a couple bucks. I have not shipped any virgins, Mark. I don't particularly care to do that. Or I never tried it. I mean, I don't know. I did take your advice. I do put attendance in them just to make sure. And I definitely do that. Most of my customers are illiterate when it comes to knowing how to put virgin queens in a hive. I got to sit there and tell them what to do most of the time. So, all that. So anyway, that's where I'm at with mine. I need to extract honey whenever I get time and the heat is not as bad. I like to get that done and get those boxes off the top and get everything put away. I'm getting every year about this time. I'm getting to the point where I'm getting tired of with the bees. And I got, like I say, my main goal right now is make sure everybody's queen right. Everybody's a 2025 queen. So hopefully, if I prove my point next year, as I say, beekeeping is an experiment that never quits, a science experiment that never quits. 2 things. My queens were 2 years old this year, two on the second honey season of this year. And last year I got 1,000 pounds of honey. Now it was an exceptional year, but they were all young girls. This year they're 2-year-olds. And I seen since last year's problems with queens, I have made observations, and it just kind of popped out at me. One, a lot of those hives, except for them big tall ones, they were mediocre honey producers. 2, I started noticing they weren't slabs of full frame brood pattern. They didn't have as many frames of brood. And she wasn't laying up fast enough when I would put open comb in there. And the worker bees, started to backfill some of that with nectar. Whereas last year, she's, at 100% rate, she's laying up everything with brood. They can't fill everything up with honey or pollen, and they would put everything upstairs in honey supers. And I've noticed that was this year. And then some of them were just slow. They just really never built up bee population. They did have a lot of, and then I also noticed.
Yeah, that's what we use.
Also noticed that I started having queens dying on me within the last month or so. So I've come up to the conclusion, listen to like Brad down there in Louisiana at the Cajun Homestead. He's got to requeen every year. Why? His queens lay 13 or 12 months out of the year. And by the year and a half later, they're dead right in the middle of the honey season. So he requeens every fall. Of course, he doesn't really have a winter. And I'm doing the Demery method. And I feel this. I'm burning out my queens because I'm making them lay like no tomorrow the first year that they're a first-year-old queen, because they're laying everything they could possibly lay, because I keep adding more open comb while I'm pulling out the capped brood that's 100% capped.
I never thought of that, Charlie. I never thought of Demery.
They keep pounding. I'm pushing them full force the first year.
Full throttle.
Full throttle. And then come middle of my honey season, just like Brad down there in Louisiana, they're dying on me.
Yeah.
Or they're, you know, so I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this type of beekeeping, and I got to replace them every year in order to get a huge honey crop. And long as the weather holds out for me too, you know, this year everybody has loss in honey sales or honey production because of all this rain. The rain for me in my area came at the wrong time when the main flow was on with either locusts and poplar trees. Now, Keith down there, half tracks, seemed like in his area, of course, he started
Perfect.
a little bit sooner because he's in South Carolina, I believe it is. But it seemed like the rain went around where he lives. As far as this, a lot of the weather pattern moved around him quite a bit, and he's, you know, pulling a lot of honey in because of that. And I think last year a lot of folks in the Midwest had a lot of rain, and we really didn't have a you know, a lot of constant rain like we are having this year. So that's some of my theories, and hopefully my requeening will definitely improve for my honey production next year as far as um, the weather. Hopefully the weather will cooperate too. Now, something that I had a lady come in on a um, Maryland, the state of Maryland Bee Club had this gal out of Texas. And it was one of them. I was tired from the night before because of my Friday night chat. Number two, it was too much information uh, at one time for me. And then I'm also a person that when I'm looking for a certain question to a certain topic, then I'm tuned in. If it's a general thing and I'm not, at the time, I wasn't queen rearing at the time. And I wasn't trying to suck in as much information as possible. But anyway, I went to Man Lake. She talked the same talk up there. Brad up in Manitoba said, check this gal out. I said, well, that's the same girl that I'd seen the other time. And now I'm awake and paying attention. So I whip it on through to where she's talking about queens. And she said, after the first year, the queen drops 40% in laying power after the first year. That is huge. That's almost half of her laying production and all that. And I'm like, well, no wonder. Like Rick Sutton said, you know, commercial guys got a couple thousand hives. Oh, yeah. First year queens make you more honey. Well, yeah, because they're laying 100% or at least 95. If they're only laying 40%, you know, 50, 60%,
Yeah.
you know, they're not keeping up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like my two color system for queens, because then in the early, you know, before the flow, I mark them a light color, and then after the flow, I mark them at summer solstice a darker flow because of that reason, Charlie. Because if I mark them all the same color blue, I'll have a extra flow on a queen come next spring. I won't know I have if I mark them all the same shade of blue this year.
Run that by me again. You're marking them in the spring. They're like 1 year
So
girl.
queens that go through the flow this year that went through, so queens that emerged or got mated in April, say, they are a light blue. Here comes Philip. They are a light blue, right? Because they're going to go
You
through the
feel
flow. They're going through this flow.
All right, the first year flow.
Then right, so that's 1 year, right? A flow, well, whatever, like it's a flow. And then my summer solstice queens, the ones that are coming out now that are getting mated and starting to lay or in the
Oh, okay.
next
I
week
got you what you're saying now.
are
Yeah.
dark blue. So come next spring, I know who went through a flow and who didn't, you know? So then, you know, I can tell a little better, like,
You can
well,
compare
you know,
with it.
then I'm selling a nuke. Well, do you want a overwintered queen? Like, do you want to, you know, like, do you want to, you know, like you get a choice of what queen. Usually they don't care anyway. They want a fresh queen. But that's how that's why I started with the 2-color system, so I could
a good
determine
idea.
how many
But you know,
flows they've been.
I tell you, after learning all this about queens and how they all work, and as a queen rearer myself now, is that for 15 years you had all these here backyarders. I want an overwintered
Well, I
queen.
know, because that's what
I
they were
want a
taught.
proven queen. And I'm
Yep.
like, you're getting a
Yep.
wore out queen, in
Mhm.
my
Yes,
Yeah.
opinion.
yes, you want a fresh, right. So changing the language, or educating the new, and I think that's our responsibility as experienced beekeepers, is to educate the new people and to say, well, maybe a fresh queen would be a little better than an overwintered queen because she could already have been through a flow, or maybe not. Like, so yes, educating. I think that's our responsibility as experienced beekeepers, is to make sure that we're giving them the best knowledge we have. We were told, back 8, 9, 10 years ago that overwintered queens, this and that up north here. Well, okay. And then we start thinking, well, maybe not. Maybe a fresh queen, maybe a summer solstice queen that went through the winter is better than a flow winter
I see it
queen.
still today. I had a guy come in. He's a quote EAS master beekeeper, Mr. Paper certified. And I've been keeping for years, 50, 20, 30 years or whatever, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. What job did you do? Oh, I was some kind of he was a professor at Johns Hopkins. Okay. He wasn't a doctor. He was a PhD guy. And
One of those.
so what I was getting at is this. He's there telling all these people this, as I call it, typical 2-year-old beginner beekeeping stuff. How you do this and how you do that and how you winter and how you do all these different things. And if you got a problem with your queen, well, you can get a mated queen, or you can do some other different things. I forget what it was. I said, and I raised my hand. I said, look, Joe, or whatever the guy's name was. I said, you need to update that slide. What do you mean? I says, there's more than a mated queen out there that you can fix the problem. I said, I sell virgin queens. So you can buy a mated queen.
I like
you
it.
can buy a virgin queen, or you can find somebody who will give you hopefully a good queen cell. And I said, you want to be the EAS guy that is supposed to do, they're basically for instruction. I said, well, then you need to tell these new beekeepers the whole story. And that's what irritates the hell out of me, is that every bee club in the state of Maryland, and every one I've ever been to, they're all in the same rut. They tell that same certain pattern of information, and that's as far as it ever grows. Next year, here comes a new crop of new beekeepers, and we're going to say the same thing over and over again. And what happened,
Charlie? That's why you started your chat all those years ago.
And then I've only been a few years, but then it's like, okay, what about us guys and gals that are 5 years into it, 10 years into it, 15 years into it? We're bored out of our minds, people.
Yes.
It's like we want, it's like the last Maryland state meeting. They had some lady in there. She went down to Central Maryland, South Africa, or South America, I believe it was. Some of them open air beehives that they show in the jungles and stuff. And I'm like, now just what am I supposed to do with that information when I go back to my beehives at my house? Nothing. It's totally waste. And it's like, well, while you guys are in Maryland, I drove 3 hours to Bill's place. And in a day, I learned how to set up a cell builder properly with the right amount of bees, came home, applied that information along with talking to Ryan Peabody from Peabody's Apiary in Southern Maryland. And I said, what do you use? Well, I use a 5-frame nuke. I said, well, that's what I use. I only going to use 2 mediums instead of 1 deep. And I said, set it up with cat brood in there, get it all, I had a hive that was queenless. So I threw the cat brood in there, made sure they didn't make any of their own cells. They were real happy because they had brood pheromone smells. And then here I'm off to the races where I've sold, I don't know, probably about, I think 20 or more. I don't know. I think it was maybe even more than that.
Hey, Philip.
I don't know.
Charlie, I can give you a little information about queens, a little history.
Yeah.
I talked to my good friend George, who's a third generation beekeeper, and he basically told me, he goes, queens today are crap in
Well,
the
I agree
industry.
with you. I mean, it's
That's all we got.
Well, let me finish.
Mhm.
He said his grandfather, they could get 3 good years out of a queen. And then he said, then at the end of his tender, it got down to 2 years. Since he's a year older than me, he goes, since I've been beekeeping, it's gotten down to 1 year. He goes, now some of these queens aren't even good for one flow.
I mean,
That's
it could
how
be
bad. That's how bad our queens have gotten over the last
Well, it's mites
50,
too.
50 100
Look at
years.
the yeah, but they have a lot of pressure. They have pest pressure that they didn't
I
have
think
Well,
before. So
I've seen something
we
happen.
have commercial queen breeders now than they didn't have 100 years ago. And they put out thousands and thousands of queens that are improperly mated. Then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got into the rural
it's like
mite and you were told to freeze your drone breed and you didn't have drones.
it's like
So
Nancy said. I
it,
mean, you go back back prior to 1980, let's say. You put bees in a box, you walked away. And they
yeah,
stayed there for years and years and years and years. They might have swarmed, but they always recreated their own queen and it just kept on going. And you went
Mhm.
out there once a year, you kept putting supers on, they made you a pile of honey, and you were done. Today, we're in them suckers at least twice a month, and we're scrutinize them all the time because of either pest problems, viral loads,
for
uh,
laying.
you know, whether or not they're queenless, whether they got crappy queens, whether the queens are dead, and it goes on and on and on and on. And you didn't have that problem, before prior to the viral loads and the mites and stuff like that. It's just like if you look back in time, like my parents when they first started out, they raised a garden. Well, my mother got sick because she didn't, back then you didn't wash anything. It wasn't necessary. They got some corn from somebody. Well, they used a pesticide on her at the time, which was new. And they didn't wash the corn and she got chemically sick. And it took her a long time to get over all that, from what I understand. And prior to that, like my grandparents, there was no pest in the garden, from what I gather. They didn't spray anything because you didn't have to. And look at what we got today. If we want to raise any kind of crop, don't matter what it's vegetables, hay crop. We had a hay crop years,
Spray,
I don't
spray.
know, 15 years ago. It was Timothy hay. And it was something was wrong with it. And that we said something to the seed company up at, the local mill. He said, does it have like a purplish look to it on the head? I says, yeah. He said, well, there's a hay mite out there that's killing your hay. You had to spray it.
Hmm.
Other than that, it used to be you had grass, you had your field of hay and you cutted it, and that was just the end of it. And it regrew and you fertilized it and limed it and you're done. But that's the way our world is right now. It's just full of pests and all. So anyway. Well, guys,
look,
it's 10 o'clock and I'm hot. I think I'm going to bed.
Well,
well,
I
I want to
think
see
we're
what
done
Philip has to
too.
say. He came on.
Hey,
Hey,
Nancy, it's
Philip
three
came on.
hours.
Yep, 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. Bam, it's three.
It was a
Now it's
All right.
three.
marathon.
turn your
Philip
thing
didn't
on,
even get to
Philip.
say
You're
anything.
muted.
But Philip came on, and I want to know what he has, what he's thinking.
I don't know. He's got to turn his microphone on. Can't hear you,
Yeah,
Turn
Philip.
your mic
he's
on,
not
Phil.
thinking
Oh,
anything.
here, I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it.
I got it.
Oh,
Now he might be.
Not
You
doing
He's
it.
muted
still
me.
not
Stop.
thinking.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. I came on to show your viewers something that might be helpful, but Charlie's got me too depressed to do anything.
What you got,
Charlie's
Philip?
got me ready to just go. I'm just going to go kick over my beehive and go to bed. All right, it took out a second. Now let me show you what I came on for. I got to turn my camera around. See if I can do this. Let's see.
Still something ugly on there.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hold on.
Setting.
Let's
Camera.
oh, it's too funny.
Let's see.
Okay.
We good?
All right. That's a
Yeah,
kitchen.
see? Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
So
it's not a beehive kitchen.
this is sort of. Actually, yeah. There's probably some. That's probably some. Oh, that's some 33 mile. I think there's some Sawmill Charlie honey over here somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in here it is. There it is. Look at that.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just opened it the other day. Oh, hold on a second. There's one of them I've been eating a lot of. Let's see if I can find it. How about that one right there?
That's that. Some of that. What is that?
It's that berry honey from
Okay.
the dirty
Oh,
side.
that's Matt's honey. That's
The
the
dirty-
blueberry honey.
The dirty
I
Yeah.
thought
side.
that
boy.
looked familiar.
It's a blackberry.
I'm using that,
Yeah.
so I've got a bunch of that eaten already. Okay, anyway, back to what I was going to say. So a couple of years ago, I started doing something where I take my wax cappings, which this year I have hardly any because I've only harvested like less than 200 pounds. And most of my frames weren't fully capped. But anyway, I basically filled up this coffee can with wax cappings, wet wax cappings. They drip for like 2 days, but and so I want to show you guys what I got out of. And what I do is I put this in a double boiler, just another pan with water, and I heat it up real slow and melt the wax. It flows to the top and solidifies. And then there's honey, which I call baker's honey. I don't sell it, but you can use it for meat or whatever, cooking sauces, whatever. But I want to show you guys how much honey you get out of just standard wax cappings that have already been drained off. So I got my scale here. Okay, this is the wax that came off right here.
Uh-huh.
That's the block. Oh, let me tear my scale here with this plate on it.
Good night, Charlie. Oh, he's already gone.
All right. So what's that say? 1 pound, 2 ounces of wax. So it's got a little bit of honey on it, it's wet, and I'll have to scrape a little off. So just say I got a pound of wax out of it. And now this is the honey that was
Oh,
in it.
wow.
See how much, it's surprising how much honey is in those cappings. So I've got a small, I don't have the same size, but I'm just going to use this bucket, to tear with. It's a little bit smaller, but close. So let's put that
I usually
on.
let my bees clean that up. My bees end up taking all that back down to the hive out of my cappings.
So
I let them clean it all and they just make it a white fluffy
okay,
Yeah.
so
wax.
see the amount of honey?
Yeah, almost half. Almost half and half.
Yeah, almost twice as much. That's 1 pound, 14 ounces.
Okay, gotcha.
Even if you give an ounce back and the honey looks really good and clear. It's not.
I'd eat that.
This is not much darker. This is not much darker than what came out. So anyway, I thought that'd be kind of interesting. What you do is put it on there. Make sure you just keep your heat real low. I put it on this morning, and I got tired after about an hour waiting for it to melt completely. So I turned it up and brought the water to a real slow boil because I needed to go to work. But I think if you had patience and could leave it for 2 or 3 hours, you could literally separate the honey out without really overheating it. Bring it up to like, when I say overheating, you're going to have to get it to about 140 for the wax to melt. But you don't have to cook the honey, is what I'm saying. And you wouldn't want to sell
I'm
that as
with
raw honey,
Nancy.
but
I let my cappings drain out of my cappings tank for days. Then after that, I'll take it out and roll it out in the yard, and the bees will clean out the rest of it.
well, this was harvested end of last week, so it did drain for 3 or 4 days. And you
Yeah,
still get that much honey. It didn't go straight from the pot into here. I let it
right.
drain for a while. So
Well, I let the bees get the rest of it.
yeah, well, I don't have enough honey to do that. I
Yeah.
don't have that luxury this year. So
Yeah, I have a whole
I
tank full of
invested in a solar
cappings.
wax melter from Better Bee a couple years back, and it was a lot of money. It's almost $300, but I got it, and I was able to sell the wax. Now it's paid itself off because I'm able to render that wax real pretty for crafters and people that do lotions and things. And Philip, I know that you do lotions and balms and things like that. I don't do any of that, but so the wax melter is real nice, and it'll clean that wax. But like I said, I drain it, and then I also let my bees take it back to the hives, the honey
Hey,
out of the
another
cappings.
another thing though, that when you give it to the
Yeah,
bees, they make a big mess of those cappings. They'll scatter those things all over the place. You'll lose.
Well, I leave them
You'll
in
lose.
the I
hey,
leave them
I
in the
said,
I leave them
You'll
in the
lose 10 to
bag.
twenty
I leave them
percent.
in the
tell
what's
you.
it called, the strainer bag. I leave them in the strainer bag.
How do they get to it then?
They well, so they'll clean that up real good, and then what you do is you just fluff it, you just shake it, and then it'll settle, and then they'll spend another day on it, and it just becomes a
Yeah,
flaky, and then I pour it into my wax melter.
and you can put it in a 5-gallon bucket. And they'll drill down into that wax an inch or two to get to that honey.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah, because it's in dearth. Usually we're going into dearth when you want to be good and dry when you put that stuff out, because then they'll just take every last drop of it. But I was mentioning that
Uh,
earlier. All my equipment, everything I use goes out, and the bees clean everything spotless.
hey guys, I'm gonna hop off here and get
Yep.
cleaned up from the day, but
Yep. I'm
appreciate
going to shut her
appreciate the
down. It's 3 hours, and I know you guys are an hour behind, and we get on for an hour before you guys get on, but it's getting late. So, oh, Gary, hey, there's Stu. I've been meaning to
yeah,
ask where you've been. I haven't seen you in a while. Glad to see that you're up and your fingers work.
yeah.
Good,
Hey,
good.
Am I
Gary,
the only one that's being shown on here? Because I'm the only one I can see.
hey,
I'm
Yeah,
about. I'm.
I
I'm
know.
done.
this is
I'm
the
done,
king
Nancy.
cam.
I just was you were just show and telling, Philip. That's all.
But,
I got a
well,
lot of
I
buttons
mean,
I'm pushing.
I'm sorry y'all weren't impressed, but I just want everybody out there to know that if you weigh your wax cappings while they're
Yes,
wet, about
Yep.
60% of that is honey. If you want to try to recover that, you can.
Oh,
yes.
yep.
Well, maybe I should do more of that. I was doing it lazy way. But
But
yes, we always learn something from you, Philip.
All right.
So we're gonna shut down. I try to always give a shout out to what's coming up. We have Horizontal Hives Ricky Rourke tomorrow night, and I think there's a new guy. I always try to remember him. Barker's Bees, I think, has
mhm.
a live now. Friday night, of course,
Yeah.
Charlie. Saturday night, Joey Roll. Sunday night is Hannah and Tim.
Tim.
Tim and
Hmm.
Hannah.
Yeah.
Gun line.
Monday night Gunline. Thank you. Monday night is Bees All Day with Bill. Tuesday is Tom. Wednesday again is me. So that's the lineup. That's how it goes. We're on every night talking bee smack. All
Can't get
right, kids.
enough.
Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Happy
All right. Good night,
See
everybody.
ya.
night. I'm going tonight too.